Still ahead, things are heating up at the southern border. Right now, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is in the Tucson, Arizona area at that sector to talk about border enforcement. It's been 3 weeks since the administration enacted stricter asylum policies. The White House says it's working, touting a 40% decline in arrests for illegal crossings. Top Republicans say this is just not enough. They are slamming the administration for allowing dangerous criminals into the U.S. and demanding answers about the recent arrest of some migrants tied to ISIS. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson just a little while ago.
2 weeks ago, 8 illegal aliens with ties to ISIS were arrested inside our own borders. These were terrorists that the Biden policies welcomed into our country. The only reason the FBI did anything about that is because House Republicans have been pressuring them to do more. I don't know what it's going to take for Joe Biden to wake up, but I can tell you that's the demand of this country.
All right, Chad Wolf, Executive Director of America First, the Policy Institute, and former Acting Secretary of the Homeland Security Department under former President Trump, is with us. Is this anything more than a political stunt to have Mayorkas at the border ahead of tomorrow night's debate? How do you view it?
Well, I do think it's interesting. It's one day, as you indicated, before the presidential debate. And I think they're there to try to tout the success, or at least what they say is the success of the executive order that they've been implementing for about 2 weeks now. You mentioned a 40% decrease. We'll take a look at those numbers, but I think it's very important for the viewers to really understand that as those numbers have reduced, those numbers have decreased, I should say, because they are pushing more and more individuals through ports of entry. And so the numbers at ports of entry are at an all-time high through the use of the CBP One app and parole. And so it's really important. All of these individuals should be counted in that number, otherwise would be counted in that number. And I think that number would not nearly be as low as the administration is touting if they were more transparent with the American people about the number of individuals coming into the country.
And not just the number, but who's coming into the country. Yeah. What is the process on understanding better those who have a criminal history? And I say that because we've had some very tragic, violent cases. Most recently, this little girl in Houston, 2 illegal immigrants now charged in her murder. You had the case of Laken Riley, the student in Georgia, the mother of 5, Rachel Morin. Is there a process in place to understand who's coming through and what they have been capable of?
Well, look, I think these incidents tell us that the vetting that Border Patrol and others at the Department of Homeland Security use, it's just not good enough, right? And a lot of that is because we rely on foreign countries, home countries where these illegal aliens are coming from. We rely on them to provide us information. In some cases, either they don't keep very good records or they simply don't provide that information. And so if you are faced with that, then what you need to start doing is detaining more and more of these individuals so that you can understand who they are before they're released into American communities. But today, they're being released so quickly, somewhere between 48 and 72 hours after they cross that border, that it's very difficult for law enforcement to do that check in such a quick manner. Sometimes it does take days. Sometimes it does take time to understand who's coming into the country. So look, I think all of these incidents point to a real problem specifically as we talk about the vetting of individuals coming into the country.
Just about 30 seconds left, Chad. Yep. What does a visit from the secretary do for morale at the border?
Well, I think if you're the Border Patrol agents, not much. You've been in a crisis for 3.5 years now. You've pleaded with this administration and this secretary to fix the crisis, listen to you, to solve this crisis. Now they're looking at just more individuals coming in. Look, even 2,500, which is the cap on the executive order, is still over 2.5 times what the Border Patrol will say is what they can really, the capacity that they have to do their law enforcement mission. So I'm not sure that it's going to do much as a morale. Simply going to the border is not a morale booster. Actually implementing policies that work and take some of the pressure off of Border Patrol agents, that's how you increase morale.
Yeah, the visit almost pouring salt in the wound, so to speak. Yeah. Chad, thank you, as always. Appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.